We're doing it. So, oh, I forgot to do the part. I just introduced myself as the interim programs director. Oh, excuse me. Very excited. Hey, everyone. It's Chicava, interim programs director at Cumbe, back for another conversation on Catherine Dunham, her legends and legacy. Today, I'm super excited because I get to talk to the great Warrington Hudlin, African and American treasure of filmmaker. He's an activist and an organizer and a disruptor. And he, as he just said, is direct lineage to Catherine Dunham, having attended the high school in her namesake. And there's so much more to tell. And I want to jump right in. How are you today?
I'm well. I'm delighted to be speaking with you.
I'm delighted to have you. So, Catherine Dunham and you, how did you become a part of this legacy?
Well, for reasons I'm still trying to figure out, I thought I had some theories. Catherine Dunham in the 1960s, the mid-1960s, relocated her activities to East St. Louis. She created, as part of this other university, a thing called the Performing Arts Training Center. And that was a companion to two other programs. One was a high school for the junior and senior year called Upward Bound, but it was not an after-school program, it was a year-round program. It was a program called the Experiment in Higher Education, which was the first 2 years of college. So it was like a kind of this kind of three legs on a stool of your high school, your humanities, performing arts, and your first 2 years of college. And this is in 1967, 68, 69 when I was there. And so I'm a teenager and really exposed to a kind of a congregation of the most brilliant radical minds in one spot. And East St. Louis is a notorious place, but culturally very, very rich. In many ways, it's almost it's an extension, in my view, of what Ms. Dunham was doing in Haiti. Haiti is a notorious place too, but culturally very rich. So I feel like she went from the Haiti in the Caribbean to the Haiti in America.
Wow, that's a big statement. How did you, what is the first time? Tell me about the first time you met Miss Dunham.
The thing is, in thinking about this, the thing I think is most interesting is that because I was so young, I just knew she was important, but I didn't know why. I know everybody was completely differential. Oh, Miss D, Miss D, Miss D. And, and I'm like, huh? I mean, being a Black American, we didn't have that kind of protocol. And so when I would see people jump up and get all excited, okay, nice lady. Well, but I just never got it. And what's really fascinating to me is not until actually I got into college and began to do my own, and I said, oh, wait a minute. I was with a master. I didn't know at the time, but she really, to my benefit, she paid attention to me. And she zoomed in on me and she, and the reason I was at this college is that there was a foundation in St. Louis called the Danford Foundation. And then this is in the 1960s. So America was at a pivotal point. And in my town, in particular, East St. Louis, we had some major rebellions in the street and the city was on fire, all kind of stuff. So this Danford Foundation put together a fund called the Metropolitan Leadership Fund, and it's to pay tuition. And so they asked Ms. Dunham, well, who in your group is deserving to, she said, this guy. And so I got nominated and it paid for my tuition to Yale.
Wow. So so you didn't have any understanding of the greatness with which you're interacting.
I know what she was great because everybody was responding to her, but I didn't understand. I was just too young to know why. I fully, for example, East St. Louis is an amazing place. At the same time, on my block, 3 doors down from me was Ike and Tina Turner. 2 doors on the opposite direction was a guy named Brother Joe May. In terms of gospel world, he was huge.
Yes.
So I'm around all this genius, but pop culture was obvious, but the kind of sophisticated high art that she did, I was not that familiar with. But over time, again, it's all retrospective. I remember being one day, I studied, I was not a dancer, I was a drummer. And my teacher was Mo Cham, who was from the National Ballet of Senegal. And I remember being in class, and this guy walks in, and Cham looks up, oh man, how you doing? And he walks over, and so we start talking. I'm like, okay, and listen to you. The guy says to me, do you know who your teacher is? I said, yeah. He said, no, no, no. Do you really know who your teacher is? And so he was trying to tell me how great Cham was. Now, he knew what the guy was trying to explain this to me? Hugh Masekela. You know,
oh my gosh.
and I didn't know who he was. So what Miss Dunham did, she went to the most culturally rich but backward place in America, you know, and violent and gangster and all that. And she just planted the seeds. And she brought this kind of revolving door of geniuses coming in and out. And I got exposed to all of it. Didn't get it until long time, years passed. I said, oh shit, that was, you know, but she planted, I consider myself a seed.
She fertilized the
Absolutely.
artistic soil of your practice.
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely, wow. Yeah.
Wow. Yale.
Mm-hmm.
So did it land when she helped you get into Yale? Did it land that?
No, I got in. She paid for it. No. She was, you know, Yale was not, you know, even in retrospect, it's cheap now. By today's money, back in those days, it was not cheap.
Yeah.
So it just relieved my parents of trying to figure out how to pay for it. And so I got this money from this foundation based on her recommendation. An interesting thing, one of the most influential, two of the most influential people to me as an artist and a scholar, first starting with her, and second was a professor at Yale who he just passed away last year. He was great influence. You may know his name, Robert Ferris Thompson.
I love his work.
Yes, and so when I went to his class, I said, you know, I'm with Catherine Dunham. Catherine Dunham? Oh, I mean, it's like she opened that door. I like, okay, yeah, but again,
she was your passport to the world.
Yes, and she told me stories about her, and she told me stories about him because of course, he's a major guy. She's a major person. So I'm just fascinated by the fact that when you're young, you just don't know who you're talking to, but later on you realize, oh, I was privileged beyond measure.
This is amazing. And, you know, you've done so many amazing things that it only makes sense that these genius hours, you've been clocking them for a very long time.
I give you one more, and this one is the most poignant. So I become really have become if Dunham is my mentee as a teenager, my mentee post-college, you know, as an adult, is Harry Belafonte. And he told me one day, he said, you know, man, when I saw you do your movies, you know, with Eddie Murphy and House Party, you know, rap, no, I was tracking you. But I said, you're just one more, you know, young Hollywood guy who wants to break in. But then I heard you was with Dunham. I said, oh, I have to give you a second look. And he told me that the reason why he gave me his attention is because I was from Dunham. And he gave me some big time attention. He called me one day and says, man, you been to Cuba? You know, you want to go? Yeah. So he and I and his wife and his kid, we all went to Cuba for 10 days. Fidel, he and Dunham, Belafonte and Fidel were tight. So they gave us a villa. So literally living in this private villa for 10 days, seeing Belafonte every day for 10 days. And that was some postgraduate mentorship that was, you know, beyond. But it would not have happened. He would not have taken me seriously wasn't for Dunham.
Not for Miss D.
Right.
So I have to ask, this is important. How did the time with Mr. Belafonte shape you? Just, I know you can't.
It's an extension. It's a continuation of the same thing. they are both people who understand art as a vehicle, but not only cultural expression, but for political activism. And that's why his solidarity with Miss Dunham, you know, and they just a continuation of the same thing. This gonna sound like name drop. I'm not name drop. I'm just telling you stories, okay? So
You're legend
but-
dropping.
okay, well, here's another one. So this was a New Year's Eve. It was a holiday party, either Christmas, New Year's. It was at Belafonte's house. So the youngest people in the room was me and Walter Mosley, because he and I are the same age. In the room, everybody else is in their 80s. I was sitting next to Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee, Ron Carter, the bassist, Eli Wallach, the actor. It was like, and then Miss Dunham came in. And I'm saying, I mean, like, this is like, come on, it just like.
All celestial beings.
Precisely. So I'm sitting with Walter Mosley, who I just think is amazing. And so we just sitting like, damn, you know.
Pinching yourselves.
Hmm?
Pinching yourselves.
Yeah. And we're getting wisdom, because at one point, I remember, this is back when Bush was still the president. And so I said to R.C. Davis, I said, Mr. Davis, you know, what's happening in America is pretty bad, man. But you've been here longer than me. And is it, in your opinion, is this under Bush worse than it's ever been? He turns to me very seriously. He says, well, young man, possibly, but there's no excuse for you not to be in the struggle. Yes, sir.
Right on. You still gotta do the work.
That's
it's
right.
Definitely not going to be better.
Yeah.
If you don't do your destiny.
But to have a legend say that to you, it's like, come on, you can read it. But he looked in my face and told me that stuff. You
know. Okay. Let's just keep blowing me away, shall we? So when I approached you for the interview, it was because one of my Dunham aunties, Dr. Catherine Scotty Scott, mentioned how benefic you were in making sure Miss Dunham was taken care of in her older years. So my question is, you know, tell us about that and how you've impacted this legacy and in the continuity of her work, that her name might remain evermore on our lips.
Well, I don't want to overstate it. That specific thing was because I was friends with Harry Belafonte, of course, Julie Belafonte, his wife, and the Dunham dancer. So she was very active with Miss Dunham. And so she was raising money from her celebrity friends. But for them to take a tax deduction for Miss Dunham's support while she was in New York, they needed a not-for-profit tax-exempt organization to receive the funds. So I said, well, I have that. My organization, matter of fact, my organization called the Black Filmmaker Foundation. And in November of 2022, we'll be 44 years in operation. So anyway, I said, well, they can write the checks to me, to my organization, and I would turn, have a pass-through to Miss Dunham. So a whole bunch of celebrities, Poitier, Whoopi Goldberg, go down the list. They all wrote these checks, and then I, would cash them, then transfer the money over to her upkeep. But I think that the contribution I want to make, which I have not fulfilled, and I'm actually working on something right now as we speak. I want to continue the what she did in East St. Louis in the 1960s, the way she brought together these brains, these amazing minds, and taught young people or taught people who want to know. I want to figure out how can I extend that to 2022? And I think I've discovered a way, because all my interest in investment now is in the metaverse. And people heard it, they know what it is. Well, I'm in it deep. And I want to create a space where people who are scholars, can gather and exchange and pass on that. To me, that's how you extend the legacy.
That is beautiful. So, why should people study Catherine Dunham as a dancer, as an artist, as an activist, as Black folk, as everybody?
Because she's the greatest Black woman artist activist of the 20th century. There's no one can compare with her. As an artist activist, there's nobody. I challenge you. Name someone who can match her as an artist activist.
I don't need, I respectfully, Dr.
And I'm
Halib,
friends. I mean, listen. Was very friendly with Ruby Dee, but all of them, they all. She is acknowledged by anybody you would think to name. Ruby Dee was amazing too, amazing. But they all recognize. The only person, I'm gonna tell you a funny story, was somewhat competitive, was Josephine Baker. I told this funny story because I was also friends with Jeffrey Holder. So evidently, when Miss Dunham did a show in Paris, Josephine Baker said, well, Paris, that's my domain. You can't come in my house and do that. So right when the show was going to open, right before the curtain, I guess the curtain came open, Josephine Baker walks into the show late with two.
of course.
But she came out, no, not late. She came with two, what do you call them, ocelots? Those kind of cats, it's like it's not a leopard, but something like that.
Yes, I remember that phase, yeah.
Yeah, so she came just upstager, so it's still that kind of diva competition stuff. And Josephine Baker was cool. And by the way, let the record show, everybody says Josephine Baker's from St. Louis. No, she's from East St. Louis. So they also crossing paths, although they're different. I think just yeah. So that's another. East St. Louis is a magnet. I'm not sure why, but a lot of genius came through there.
There must be a vortex line,
yeah,
a power line that
I think
people there.
I should have, again, I was too young to ask. I should have asked Ms. Dunham that question.
What causes it?
Yeah, because see, most people know Ms. Dunham as a dancer choreographer, but I was a drummer and I was around dance. I understand Dunham technique. I get all that, but biggest thing she passed on to me is her scholarship and her activism, and that's not, to me, should be talked about more. And that was an equal contribution.
And that laid the the groundwork for everything else she does. And I think that when we talk about her as the greatest artist activist of the 20th century.
I want to clarify, I said female, male, okay. Female, yeah.
Okay, one of the greatest.
No, the greatest.
Well, no, I said, and not without gendering.
Without then I concur.
Okay. Well, and the reason it was possible is because she basically said, I'm going to have my own business. I'm going to have my own thing. So while it's amazing, and it's not to overshadow any work that anyone else has done, but by setting that foundation in academics, in social services, in the cultivation of people, by setting up her own shingle,
yeah,
it created a space in a way that you can't have as an actor, singer, musician. She was very self-contained. She was sovereign. She had a level of sovereignty.
I love that. I love using that word. At the same time, I remember with Melvin Van Peebles, who's my third mentor. He told me one day, he said, man, everybody says, man, I work out of the box. I'm working out of the box. He said, but you gotta understand, when I started, there was no box. So her entrepreneurship, her cultural institution building, what was she gonna be? There was nobody doing what she's doing. Her scholarship was not recognized. I mean, she was not fully, and I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, because to this day, she needs to be further investigated, interrogated of her legacy. So she had to do this. There was no choice. I mean, which fascinates me, and that's why I kind of identify with her, is that you have to be an artist, you have to be an organizer, you have to be an institution builder, you have to be an activist. I mean, those hyphens come with the package.
Then you have to stay up late and be the admin and the accountant, you know?
Which she was not good at, by the way.
Well, you can't be good at everything.
There you go. And in fact, I would, uh, uh, well, Belafonte would remind me, said, yeah, man, okay, but, you know, because a lot of money when this is back in, you know, in institution days, not when she, you know, she later in life, but there was a time when a lot of money passed through, and it's passed through.
Yeah, a lot of money moved around for sure.
Yeah.
How and I've read the quote often, like they're on tour on the brink of bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that kind of eye on the sparrow that's like, oh, this fell through, we're gonna do a club gig. Oh, this like I think when you're operating in kind of that Spider-Man mode, you know.
Well, the arts, most arts institutions are, you know, are on the verge of bankruptcy, and they all, most of them, even the big ones, they run a deficit. So unless you have either a extremely savvy business partner or a patron, you know, you can't function otherwise. And I don't think she, you know, she never had a reliable patron or reliable business partner to make the numbers work. But that's okay, because we're talking now because the legacy left, and that is beyond the balance sheet.
Right. The accounting, whatever, it got done. It got done. I am sharing. Have you visited the Dunham Data Project?
No, I have not.
This is really fun. It is raw. It's a data visualization, and they have one that takes you around the globe from 1947 to 69. Just that it's heart stopping to see.
Please send me a link. I want to see this.
I definitely will. We're going to be sharing some of it next week, but it's brilliant. And they have another graphic of all the dancers. So it's kind of a study of the company in that time period.
Yeah.
So the visuals are really quite beautiful, because you can look at the dancers and what they performed in and where they performed.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
And again, back to the privileges I had. In my time, in the 60s, I met Tommy Gomez, and what's the other guy who danced in
Vinoy?
yeah, but he's one of the younger guys. I'm talking about
Archie Savage.
Thank you, Archie Savage, who, by the way, believe it, is in a Fellini movie. You know, yes,
really?
Yeah. Oh. I'm a film guy. So I'm watching. Wait a minute, that's Archie Savage. I mean, he's not in the acting; it's a dance number. But the point is, he's in the Fellini movie. So I said, how cool is this? So yeah, so I met those legends.
There are she made so many legends.
Yeah.
So many. We're excited to dance with.
And even again, to my younger generation, a guy out of Detroit, I think his name Clifford Fears.
Come again?
Clifford Fears, I think is his name. He's the first person. He's the first person I saw doing the boot dance out of South Africa. And I said, wow, how cool is this? Yeah.
Beautiful. My next question, tell us your favorite memory of Miss Dunham.
There's I'll give you an interpersonal change, and I'll give you just a presence change. We were on a tour, because I actually, as a student, performed with the touring company. So we were going to Connecticut, Bridgeport, Connecticut, and we got caught in a blizzard. And the planes couldn't take off. We were sleeping on the floor. in the airport, you know. So anyway, but the whole thing was a mess. And so she called a meeting, and the people, the adults, I'm a teenager. She asked them, what happened? Why didn't the troops just, you know, kind of dressing down the troops, so to speak? So I'm sitting there looking at her like, do this. And so she checked me, checking her, right? She turns to me and she looks and said, yes, and I had nothing to say. I'm a kid. But it was some kind of, she read me, you know, like, you know, she just read me in that moment. I said, okay. So I was very pleased that she read me, tracked me, all that, which I think led on to, you know, like, you know, in class, you put a circle around the student. So let me keep an eye on this guy.
She gave you a technique for tracking people.
But what she did, I mean, East St. Louis is my favorite joke about East St. Louis is that when you drive across the bridge and, you know, to East St. Louis, the police stop you. And the police said, do you have any guns in the car? If you say no, then they give you one. So when she got there, it was what's it called? I think it's called the warlords. They were like the terror. They were like the, you know, really roughest guys. And they got arrested. And Dunham intervened. And they was going to arrest her too. Then they figured, oh, then they realized after the fact who she was, they had to like back off. But because the gang members saw her stand up for them, so then okay, so she didn't come to town as this kind of you know, ethereal entity. She came as a person who got grassroots, mud on the ground, you know, in there. And so she was embraced upon arrival with the roughest, toughest guys in East St. Louis. And some of the leaders became dancers. Who would have thought these guys who are, you know, thugs, basically, you know, they you know, became dancers. This guy, I'm trying to make his name. But he was the lead dancer at one point. Yeah, I have to have a cheat sheet to remember these names. But I was just very impressed by the people who everybody was scared of, all bowed down to her. That told me, like, who is this woman that comes in and just makes, you know, the gangsters bow down, you know? So it was pretty amazing. And also the activists, there was a guy, his name was Charles Cohen. He was like the equivalent of the Black Panthers, you know, and we did a performance in a place in down, it's called Cairo, Illinois. It's around the border of Kentucky. And it was in a housing project, and the housing project was under siege by these Klansmen. They would come by at night and shoot the place up, just pow, 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 you know, like crazy, you know, like. And so she's okay. Well, I'm gonna do a performance down there. So like I'm in the car, like damn, we're in the bus going down to basically a embattled, you know, place. That's who she was. I mean, she was just fearless. And so I'm sitting there back with the guys, and the other big influence that Miss Dunn had on me is that I was the first person in East St. Louis to learn karate. And people know what it was. They thought it was something you eat or whatever. But Miss Dunn knew exactly what it was. And so she said, oh, you know karate? I said, yeah, I'm a beginner, but then I have my first 2 belts. She said, oh, that's good enough. You know more than everybody else. Here, she put me on the payroll teaching karate. And in retrospect, you know, I didn't know enough, but I knew more than everyone else. And so I remember going to places and like those gangsters I told you about. Who are you, right? So I had a board. I said, pow! Oh, okay. You can do that. You must be tough too, you know. And so she positioned me to be this kind of what's called an ambassador to that other world. And which I found out that she knew all the masters in New York. She actually brought them to East St. Louis. And after I reconnected one of the guys, he's 75 now. I reminded him that we had met in 1969. And he said, wow, you remember that? I said, he was a very big influence on me. So, and the other thing is that one Euro Case, that's the guy's name. Y-U-L, I think is his name. When I would teach karate, I was right before the dance class would start. I would have the same room for karate. So he watched the class. He said, "That's nice. That's nice. It's nice." He said, "But that's from Japan." I said, "Yeah, I know it's from Japan." He said, "But there's a martial art from Africa." I said, "No, no, 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 no. It comes from Japan and China and Korea." I said, "No, no, no. It's from Africa." He said, "What is it?" He said, "It's capoeira. It's from Africa and Brazil." I never heard of it. He said, "But no, it is." He showed me a couple moves. Like, that's okay. And then later in life, I'm in New York, and I said, there's a Brooklyn, Brooklyn Tech, and it was capoeira. And I went there, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is what they talked about." And I immediately switched over, started doing capoeira. I'm in the first generation class of Americans to do capoeira here in New York, 1977. And I love capoeira, But that's all, again, all the Dunham connection took me from expanded my knowledge from doing Asian martial arts, doing Afro-Brazilian martial arts.
That is brilliant. Just the connection to the martial arts, because I was you help are you the primary facilitator producer of World Tai Chi Day in here in New York?
Yes, for the last X number of years. And there was a guy before me, but he passed away. And I used to go every year. And I loved it. And then he passed away, but nobody continued it. I figured he would have a student, but so we missed a year or two. I said, "Come on, this is too important." So I picked it up, and so now I'm able to keep it going, and would continue, to bring together people from all over the tri-state, all different styles, Yang style, Chen style, Wu style, Wu Ha, the whole thing, and we all get together, and we exchange and fraternize.
Yes, I'm a
And your teacher came.
yes, my teacher Sharon.
She comes. She's been there she's done it multiple years.
Yes, almost every year, there was that gap, but she always has participated and brought us students along. It's absolutely amazing. And as a part of that community, I'm very, very grateful to you. What hold on. This is gonna be an edit moment because I'm so in.
It's a lot to talk about. It's a lot to talk about.
Well, I'm so in everything you've exploded my brain with. I'm like, and segue. Here we go. Now, so how did you begin? You have a karate practice, and then you have capoeira. How did you begin a Tai Chi practice?
I started karate in 1968. And so when I was getting close to 60, I said, karate is good, but that's a young man's game. So is capoeira is a young man's game. Although old guys do it, I said, So let me prepare for my senior citizenship. So I switched from the kind of very aggressive, physically demanding arts of Japan and China into something, this Tai Chi is Chinese too, but I said, let me be nice to my body. And all my classmates who stayed in what, the sorts the art I was practicing, they all got hip replacements and arthritis and this and that. I said, I got out just in time because your body just can't take the damage of those arts. And but I'm really praised, and this happened recently. I don't mind telling you this. What I did learn from those arts stayed with me. And recently, like maybe 6 months ago, I was walking in the village and I was talking to someone, a friend of mine, and thinking about something else, that's distracted. And I tripped and fell face forward onto the concrete. But all my knowledge came back and I broke my fall and jumped up, no injury. I said, wow, that stuff still works. And so it makes me think that, because I did, listen, I have more than 50 years of martial art practice of one style or another. I've done many, Shaolin, Wing Chun, Bando, karate, capoeira, done, and now Tai Chi.
That 50 years of practice for that moment of performance.
And exactly. Save me, because I could have been, I could be, Because what happens is many people, when they become seniors, they break their hip. And that's straight downhill after that. And boy, I can fall. I can fall. Concrete, no problem. So that gives me hope.
Yeah, there's a shift. I'm actually in a place of inquiry with that, like how the shift with the way the kidneys function and keeping the hormones going, because our kidneys are also our bones, and how do we maintain, right, our level of temperance? Because as we age, when our sexual organs stop generating all these hormones, there's an uptick of the work that the kidneys and the liver have to do.
Oh, okay.
And that's whatever the kidneys, especially for women, because there's a challenge with women once you cross menopause, like
Sure.
our bones can,
Right.
this is not okay. So what's going on with that, and how can we mitigate it? Because,
Yeah.
back when we lived till we were 40, it wasn't a problem, but
Right,
now
right.
the shift is happening.
80 and 90. My mother, I'm pleased to say, will be 92 in September.
Oh, that's wonderful to get to be with her so long.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
wonderful.
sharp. It's just completely sharp. And again, I give her credit because she's the one who took me down to sign me up for Ms. Dunham's program.
Yeah, she had to find productive things for you to do
Yeah.
and build a future. It's
Yeah,
like
precisely.
she wanted to make sure you knew there was a big world out there and a place for you in it.
Yep.
Now, I see a lot of parallels between Dunham technique and martial arts. Like, and I love it. It's really shaping my dance in a different way, because I've been so entrenched in my Tao studies. And then I come back into these classes I've programmed and I'm talking to myself differently. And I also study a form of Kung Fu too. Do you see the parallels, like with how we use tree?
One of the things in Dunham technique that's clear is isolation. And the ability to move your body one section independent of another section. That is, for example, Tai Chi. That's so clear, so clear. I mean, in Tai Chi, if you can't unify your body into and move the entire body. In other words, people do Tai Chi and just move their arms. They just doing arm movements. But so the Dunham technique of a kind of alignment of your body, so that you move either as a whole or you move in isolation. That kind of self-awareness, that's a direct correlation to martial